What's up, fam? Welcome to another edition of God Dreamers. I hope you're having a fantastic day today. I am for sure. And I'm even more excited because I have a guest here today that's going to talk about his life, his new adventures in business, and how to grow his your business. Special guest today is Ahmaad Green. Ahmaad, what's happening, my brother? How you doing today?
Doing great, man. So glad to be on the show today, Todd.
Yeah, man, I'm excited about what you have to share. I know we've been kind of talking off and on the last few weeks about some of the things that you're doing in your, yeah, I guess your launch of your new business, and so I'm excited that you're going to share a little bit more about that today. So,
For sure, for sure. I'm excited to chat about it too.
cool. So let's get started here. So let's share a little bit about yourself before we dig into it. So share a little bit about yourself. What makes you tick? Who is Ahmaad Green?
Well, if we want to be here for 30 minutes,
Or more?
if we want to be here for 30 minutes, I can give you the short version. If you want to be here for about a couple of days, I can give you the long version. And that'll tell you a little bit about how I tick, just because I'm a detail oriented, story based wise as well. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, I can get very detailed. But I mean, just long story short, let's see how I can make it short. So when I was about three and a half, going on close to 4 years old, my grandpa passed. One of my grandpas passed because both of them passed before I was 6 years old. But one of my mom's dad passed, and as I was growing up, and I actually spent a lot of time with him. I have a lot of memories with him. Actually, I can remember things back down to like I was 2 years old. I remember him at my second birthday, like walking into the little arcade area place and all that different stuff. I can remember a lot of stuff long
Oh
term.
wow.
Short term, not that great. Long term, really awesome. Uh, but anyways, I had a lot of great memories with my grandpa. I was spending a lot of time with him,
Uh-huh.
and his health deteriorated a lot as I was going into like 4 years old, and then he passed. And then as I was growing up, I started to hear more and more stories just about how he was an entrepreneur, how he had a restaurant, and even recently, like the story started to unfold even more. Just learning about him having real estate, and even before he had the restaurant for 40 years, um, in down in Savannah, Georgia, where we're from, in during Jim Crow time. He also even before that had like a club and different stuff like that.
What?
So I just found that out recently, but I always knew he had a restaurant, and I just was super excited about that. Just having somebody in my family that was an entrepreneur. So as I grew up, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, just to carry on and like build on the legacy. Because when I was young, I never got to see what it is that he did, because a lot of the stuff he had to give away because his health started deteriorating well in the 80s, and I wasn't born until 94. So and he sold off his businesses and around that time and stuff. So I'm just, as I'm coming into the world, I know him as grandpa,
Yeah.
and other people know him as just different figure. Had a restaurant called Brown's Cafe, and so anyways, that sparked my like entrepreneurial spirit, I believe. And I think it was just, I think at times, I'm not sure if this happens, but if he was to look down on me, I think sometimes he would be excited about the path that I started to choose, just because I kind of been living my life trying to like build up an entrepreneurship and just continue a legacy. And then, so when I was like 12 years old, I've done a lot of different things. Like when I was in
Yeah.
school, I used to sell candy. I used to sell chips. I used to take my parents would give me snacks. I would take it to school and sell it. I remember there was this paper thing in, like, I forget what grade we were in, but we would make this paper spinner thing. You would color it. So I started coloring it for people and then selling it for 25 cents. Um, and then when I got to middle school, I started a car washing service, and I almost had this really cool idea. And I was gonna get a friend of mine to come and actually, I was gonna wash cars. He already was cutting grass in the
Uh-huh.
neighborhood right across from us. I was like, man, you know what? If we came and was like, hey, we'll cut your grass and then I'll wash your car. Because when you think about it, like most times when you go cut your grass, you got to move your car, or either the grass hits on the car. what great of a service would be, let's just go ahead and wash the car all in one service.
Yeah.
So, anyways, my friend never got up early in the morning. The day I told him to get up so we could go knock on some doors, and that never got off. But that was gonna be called Green and Clean. So, or play on my
Oh,
last name and then the grass and then
okay.
washing cars and stuff.
Hey, man, I think
Um,
it's still an opportunity, right? Potentially.
yeah, man, it
Yeah.
still might be a good idea, but I'll probably leave it alone at this point. And so, let's see if I can into entrepreneurship. Another story. Oh, so then in college, it's really funny because God had told me before I knew who it was who was speaking to me. When I was getting ready to go to school, I was literally actually about to go to school to one, I wanted to do studying entrepreneurship a little bit, but I also
Mhm.
wanted to learn fashion design and shoe design so I could actually create my own shoes. And
What?
yeah,
I
that
didn't know
was
that about you.
yeah, I wanted to do that. I never did it. And funny enough, so I'll just tell you the story how God just been like shaping and moving me in different directions. So in the middle in high school, I had to switch schools in the middle of my 11th grade year. So I switched schools to a whole different county, and I walk in the first day, and the principal was like, here's all our programs that we have," which is kind of interesting because I moved to this county and only had two high schools. Before I was in Chatham County,
Mhm.
and they had so many programs that like once you get out of school, you can get certified. So in
Yeah.
my mind, because I'm still thinking about designing shoes and doing something like that, I was like, I'm gonna find a program in here that I could get certified to like, help me and going forward in designing shoes after I get done with school. So I'm looking and I see this thing and it just popped up was graphic design. I was like, all right, boom, I'm gonna do that. That sounds like something that I need to do. Shoes necessarily. It helps me design the box that they come in. And so I got certified in graphic design. But the cool thing about it was I found that I was really, really good at it. Once I started digging it, like getting into it and being in class, like I really enjoyed it and I really liked it. So
Yeah.
and actually and then in 12th grade, because I went to the event to the next stage of the class to get the last certification, we had this I had to come up here to Atlanta 'cause I still was near Savannah at the time. Coming here to Atlanta for a competition that was for advertising and graphic design. And so I placed fourth. I placed number one in my region. I placed fourth up
Wow.
here. Um, so I didn't get a badge or anything like that. I really felt like my idea was good, but it just I took a little bit more time trying to figure out like a good play for like the whole thing. Actually, I haven't told too many people this story. But then, anyways, back to so then here's the next step. The next step is God actually. I didn't know who it was. I sold myself. I was not going to Savannah State, which is a great HBCU
Yeah.
in Savannah. I was like, man, I'm not going there. Everybody goes there if they don't like. That's how I was thinking about it at the time. I didn't even know anything that much about HBCUs, honestly. But
Yeah.
my mom went there. Um, my aunt went there. My dad started there. He didn't finish. And so, anyways, I'm getting ready to either go to Georgia Southern or SCAD, which is Savannah College of Art and Design.
Mhm.
It's right down there. I'm thinking about that so I could get into learn advertising and then learn entrepreneurship in the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm walking in the kitchen in the house and I just hear this voice say, "Go to Savannah State." And I look on the counter in the kitchen and there's this acceptance letter over there for me. I didn't even apply. My mom did.
What?
Yeah, because I wasn't going to apply. I was like, "Man, I'm not going there. Like, I'm either going to go to Georgia Southern or I'm going to go to SCAD." I was having a little. I would have had to go to like because I got a 20 on the ACT. I had to get a 21 to like get in without having to do like the summer school before for Georgia Southern. So I
Yeah.
probably was going to go to Georgia Southern. I was potentially going to get, and I was a week away from actually submitting my portfolio to see if I was going to get a scholarship for SCAD. So literally, I'm in the midst of like going between these two things, and then I just hear this voice say, "Go to Savannah State." And then I thought about it for like a quick second in the kitchen. I was like, that makes sense. So I, I was like, well, I just go there. I didn't even finish like my portfolio process with SCAD. Like I just kind of, I was like, I already got good enough grade. I don't have to go take nothing else. I don't have to go in the
Yeah.
summer. I have to do extra stuff. I was like, I'm just gonna go here. I can save my money. I can stay in the city, get me a job. I'm around more people. I don't have to go to a different place and try to figure out getting a
Yeah.
job and
That makes
staying on
sense.
campus and stuff like that. So, anyways, all in that, and I thought about all this in that moment, like literally that fast. Like that's how my brain ticks. So I go to Savannah State and I meet this. I got tricked into going to this this Christian ministry, Bible studies. Some friends of
You got
ours.
tricked?
Yeah, I got tricked. It was pretty funny. Some friends of ours was like, "Hey, we're starting up a church or a Christian ministry on campus. Hey, we just need your email and your name just so we can have enough people to like get started. It's like you don't have to do anything, but just put your name and email down so we can have enough people so we get started." I was like, "All right, cool." I grew up in church too, but
Yeah.
I just at that time
Yeah.
I
I know.
wasn't on like big in my faith or different stuff like that. I understood and knew about God. I tried to stay away because I did, I knew what the accountability was.
Mhm.
And but basically I was just sitting there like, all right, what do I do? So I just gave her an email. I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm not even gonna worry about it. And a week or so goes by. They're like, all right, we got to stay there. All right, we're having Bible study this week. Are we gonna see you there? I was like, And so anyway, I started going to Bible study on campus, which was also cool because the next couple of years, like I really got into like a really horrible time, just like trying to like manage my money, like going to work, going to school, like trying to feed myself and different stuff. So like going to Bible study, like when I knew they had pizza and I knew I was gonna get something to eat, was like a heaven sent. But then at the same
Yeah.
time, and then at the same time, it was like I was like something was happening. It started happening around 2014 when my friend's mom, we call her Mama Tina, came and she prophesied over me. And I never had that happen to me before. So like I'm just like, what is this? Like what like so all of 2014, like I could just feel God tugging on me, tugging on me. And then finally 2015, like I rededicated my life to Christ. Um
Wow, that's exciting.
6, 7 months later from there, like I preached my first sermon. He called me to be a minister. Like that was a crazy like moment, like how he
Minister?
like
Okay.
yeah. And like that was crazy. So started preaching after that. But then I also I all of college I was working on trying to create this idea to create this clothing line, kind of back to like, all right, me trying to like get into shoes and fashion and different stuff like that. So because I knew graphic design, I would create the designs, and I was trying to work on like a really great design and like figuring out how to actually get stuff printed, how to sell it, and all that different stuff. And it wasn't until after I gave my life to Christ that everything started flowing to where I had enough money to actually pour into the vision and the dream. And so I started that. I got a bunch of T-shirts for like $5 a piece from all my different designs. Started trying to sell it, and I wanted to do it online specifically because I didn't know about print on demand at the time. I wish I did. Um, and then literally the thing that I started to realize, and then that business went down. But the thing that I wanted it to do was to be online
Mhm.
and to be able to, be passive and sustainable online. Like I could, make the designs, market it, people can go and purchase online. Like I don't have to do a lot of bit of work. The biggest obstacle that came into play, and all of this happened before I even got to like my core classes in college, which was going to be public relations and advertising, and I minored in entrepreneurship. So I'm doing this without even a lot of understanding of like the the I knew the understanding of buy it for less, sell it for more, like
Yeah.
hustle principles. I knew that, but I didn't know like the marketing, like to get it to people, like different stuff. And then the game was changing at the time because a lot of stuff was online, but the stuff you get taught at college was traditional.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't get a lot of that background. So I started searching stuff, searching how to figure out how to advertise and different stuff. I got an internship and different stuff. And then God like moved my family up here to Atlanta. I started getting into more businesses where I was helping them with their advertising, and we were seeing really great results. So that's the semi short version of the story, and that's like how I got into everything. I started learning like Facebook ads, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Snapchat. I've done it for brands like Stainmaster, Home Depot, most recently Site One Landscape Supply, like being able to run like million dollar campaigns and stuff
Wow.
like that, to where even just I strategized and helped plan one campaign that in 2 weeks made $10 million in revenue.
Wow. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. So it was a pretty cool journey. and everything. And I met my wife up here, and we have our family together. So it's been pretty cool and been growing in like that entrepreneurship
Yeah.
as well. And so now going into my foray of for a long time I was trying to do agency and different stuff, but like I kept trying feeling this tug of like I really want to incorporate God in the business because there's a lot of when you look in the Bible, there's a lot of business principles, and I would see this as I was growing up and different stuff. Just like when I was 6 or 7 years old, like one of the first scriptures I memorized was a wise man stores up an inheritance for his children's children. What did that bring back to me specifically? Being learning about my granddad and knowing that he had businesses, he had different stuff, and I wanted to. And I started living my life, especially when you see people die early in your life. You live your life in a different way
That's true.
just
Mhm.
because it's just like I know my life is going to end. So I started living my life not for myself, but for like what could I do for my children's children based off of my grandparents dying, other people I'm seeing dying, and then reading that scripture, realizing like, I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but God did call us to not to be wealthy just for ourselves, but to be wealthy for our family. When we think about
Yeah.
kingdom wealth passes down generation to generation, and God put us on this earth to establish His kingdom on earth. So when He said, like in the when He's teaching us not the Lord's prayer, because really it's the this is how you pray. This wasn't the Lord was praying this; He was showing us how to pray.
Mhm, mhm.
The prayer template, He was showing us like let heaven come down to earth, let His kingdom reside here on earth. Is what He's saying through us. And it started with Adam and Eve. You go from Genesis 1:28, where God said, God blessed them, and God said, be fruitful and
Mhm.
multiply,
Multiply, yeah.
fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over every living thing on earth. So that's a call more than just, you know, having babies, but also having kingdom minded children, also having kingdom minded businesses, also having kingdom minded homes. Um, and just passing that down. So a wise man stores up a inheritance for his children's children. Oh, matter of fact, let me take that back because all my life for some time I've been saying a wise man. The word actually said a good man. That's the actually interesting part because every time you see good in the Bible, it was referring. Well, most times when you see good in the Bible, back to the root word, uh, the translated word, it was saying it's pleasing to God. A good man is pleasing to God to see a man store up an inheritance for his children's children, not for himself.
Yeah.
Not to be selfish, but to store up for the people that's coming after him. So that was the one biggest thing that like I've been harping on. I was like, God, how do I bring everything together to where I can share two things that I'm really passionate about. Passionate about my faith. I'm passionate about business just because of my life and just like how awesome it is and how you have put this into the Bible. It littered the business principles throughout so many different places. And it's not for us to idolize business or idolize money, but it's for us to do what he called us to do, which is to pass down his kingdom. And it's kind of interesting because in today's culture, we expect our children to start from zero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We expect, well, I did it on my own. Like they have to learn. That's not necessarily how the Bible teaches us. The Bible teaches that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Also, a part of that inheritance should be teaching them how to manage it and teaching them not to be, brats.
Yeah, 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 being good stewards.
Exactly.
It's interesting that and it's interesting that you mentioned that, when God blesses us with wealth, it's not for us, right? But unfortunately, the way I guess Western culture is, and maybe around the world, is that when you have wealth, it's like mine, 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 and you're not really thinking about your kids, right? I mean, it's basically this is what I did. This is how I created this, and
Hmm.
the kids may benefit from it, but the intent of me creating this is not really for my kids. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But I mean, but God's way is you create this wealth for your kids, but as well as for others, right? I mean, the wealth
Hmm.
is for the kingdom to help grow the kingdom. And so when you have that mindset, it's a different intent. It's a different uh, purpose for
Hmm.
the wealth. right? It's not the wealth. You know, of course you benefit from the wealth, but it's not for
Mhm.
you only, right? So
Only.
yeah,
Ain't no blessing in the world that has been given was supposed to be given for just one person. That's the beauty when you think about it. And God bless Adam and Eve. Like he could have just stopped there.
yeah.
But the like anytime someone like so even when we think about what's interesting, somebody had broke this down. I forgot the pastor's name, but it was so profound to me. Even when you think about Psalm 23, when it says that God prepares a table in the presence of your enemies, that's even thinking about like God will bless your enemies. You think about that, like he's putting a table before them. What if it was meant for like your enemies to come sit down so they can experience God for themselves and turn their hearts? So when we think about blessings, blessings always come to be. When you think about it, let's go back to Genesis 1:28 because a lot of this stuff is just already baked into Genesis 1.
Hmm.
And God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful." So let's think about that for a second, where it says He blessed them. So to be fruitful, you need to have a seed.
Hmm.
To have a seed, that seed had to been inside. To be a fruit, the seed is inside itself. So God blessed them. God put something inside of them. He did that part for them and said, "Be fruitful. Go reproduce based off of the good fruit that you are."
Yeah.
That is going to be fruitful and multiply.
Multiply. Hmm.
So multiply that, and then that's just a business. That's just a business. That's a business scripture, a kingdom business scripture. When you think about it, anything, and you could back this up with Ecclesiastes 11:1 and 11:2. Anything inside of business, especially when the first things that I help people with is marketing and advertising. You do not want to be the only person in every single function inside of your business. If you can find a way to make yourself multiply in the marketplace so that more people can find you and more people can find your products, that will help you after you've been fruitful and multiply, help you fill up what you have and subdue and take control over the marketplace so you can have dominion.
Yeah.
So you can replenish what you have to go back to be fruitful and multiply. Because a lot of times it happens that I've seen, especially in my course of business, I would get stuff going, and then because I'm having to do everything, it breaks down and being able to build the business up to sustain itself. The
Yeah.
business is not supposed to be us in the middle stuck on this hamster wheel. It's supposed to be us building the system of a flywheel so it operates like a water wheel on its own
Yeah.
as more and more customers come through the door.
Yeah.
So back
Yeah.
to Genesis 1:28 where it says be fruitful and then multiply. When you think about marketing and advertising your business should be able to be seen by multiple people. So I help people do that with advertising. I was just talking to a friend a couple weeks ago of mine. I was explaining to him why this is so important. When you think about it, I was running ads for a certain service. I had about in one day, probably recently, one day about 10 to 15,000 impressions, or reached about 10,000 people. When you think about that, I'm one person sitting still in my home, but I was able to be seen, and that offer that I was having was able to be seen 10,000 times without me leaving my room.
Wow, that's
Think
crazy.
about think about how that changes your business when it's not you, the person knocking on every single person's door, like I was thinking about doing when I wanted to make the car washing business. Or when I was creating the t-shirt line, I wanted the people to purchase online, but I had to go to different events. I had to go to different stuff. Being able to do that from the comfort of my home, and most businesses do that. Like when I was young, I used to just look around. I was like, I never would see the owner at the building. Now, there was one time my first business, my first job that I had, I was working at Monkey Joe's. Now, there was this couple, this married couple who had kids who they owned it. So they would come in maybe every 4 to 5 months. I would see them every 4 to 5 months, maybe. They would come in and check on the place. But they had systems and templates and checklists for us to go through each and every day that systemized their business so that they did not have to be the ones there every single day in their business for their business to run. And that's the thing that I want to help more and more entrepreneurs understand and that all of these principles can come from the Bible and building up and growing your business.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Because I was as you were sharing about the being fruitful and multiply, I kind of pictured in my mind like a peach tree. Like it's one peach tree, right? That grew from a seed. Um, and there are processes to that you need to have in place in order for that peach tree to grow successfully, right? You got to water it, you got to fertilize, it's got to get sunlight. Those are all things that are repeatable, right? But if you
Hmm.
do it right, then that peach tree will blossom. The fruit that it bears is good fruit. People want to eat that fruit, right? They want to use
Hmm.
that fruit for good things, pie, peach cobbler, whatever that may be, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then those seeds can be planted elsewhere to multiply even more. So you're right. And I didn't really think about it that way, but yeah, there are processes that you have to have in place. And God set up those processes early on. I mean, even when it comes to, us sharing the good news, like one plants the seed, another person waters, but God gets the increase, right? So,
Exactly.
right, I mean, business is all kind of still in line of what God's way of doing things. So that's good stuff right there, man. So
Hmm.
let me ask you a question. The so the online business or business campaigns is really a hard thing for a lot of people, especially small businesses, because it requires some time, some investments. What are some of the steps that one needs to take to really be successful in that area? I mean, I have a small business, and
Hmm.
I've struggled, to be honest with you. I've struggled with getting that visibility, because
Hmm.
it's the old fashioned way of visibility, like you would have put out ads in a newspaper or a magazine, or you put out ads on TV or radio.
Hmm.
Digital domain is a little bit different. I think it's better in a sense, because the old fashioned way is kind of a passive approach, right? You put it out there, but you don't really know who's watching, that who's watching, who's taking the next steps. But with the digital campaigns, at least you have some way of knowing who's watching and who's not watching. But what are some of those steps that, for small business, what can they do to help get more of the word out as far as what they do, the businesses, products, and services from your
For sh-
experience?
for sure. So what I like to take people through and teach people inside of my business is how to get a bag. All right. And so I take them through bag, which for us, our business is business after guide. So it's an acronym.
Okay. Okay. I was going to ask you what that meant.
Yeah. And so, but also there's another acronym that I created from bag, which is the steps to be able to have uh the practical steps that you can take to build a business that operates on its own in a digital space. So the first thing with any business, honestly, is the B. You need to build a grand offer. If you run ads or anything, like I've seen this time and time again, people will run ads and like they'll just put stuff up there and like, oh, this should work. But it's not a compelling offer to people. You have to make an offer so irresistible to the marketplace that they feel stupid saying no.
Okay. Like that.
So so I take people through the first process of this is how you build your grand offer so that when you present it to the marketplace, they're ready and willing to work with you, to buy from you, to whatever it is. Because just like, so example, I was working with some people recently, and one person was a web developer, and he kept telling me like, I'm not sure how to get more people. I was like, well, what's your offer? He's like, just a web developer. I design um, landing pages and different stuff. That's not your offer. That should never be your offer. And don't tell people just that. Because here's the thing too, is that if you don't create a compelling offer, you don't want to just lead with your services. People can replace services all the time.
Yeah.
But in marketing and advertising, if you can deliver a result and you can show them a result, they'll pick that up day in and day out. Because I gave the person this example of say like a office desk. When you purchase an office desk, what do you really want? You want a place to work. You want a place to build your business. You want a place to have some solitude, some clear thoughts, and being able to express your ideas. But when you buy a office desk, there it's not always sometimes put together. You have to assemble it.
Hmm.
When the assembly comes, you have to have certain tools. Sometimes not all the tools are in there, right?
Hmm.
So But the result was I want to have this desk to be able to build something, whether that's on whether that's an architectural thing, whether that's online. I want to be able to have a space where I can have clear and free thought, whatever that result is, right? So if I lead with that, people are more compelled by that than they are actually, okay, I just need to get these pieces of boards and put it together so I can have this desk.
Yeah.
Kind
So
of
you,
kind of in that way. Instead
yes.
of saying I'm a web developer, I can design your website. You can say this instead. I can help you 2x your conversions on your landing page by doing these simple tweaks here.
Okay.
That is
Yeah.
exactly more of what people want.
Yeah. That's what they want. Right. Yeah.
They
They're not.
want more money. They don't really want to. If because here's the thing, I've made
Yeah.
landing pages where it is completely like simple, like white, black. That's it, and the conversion rates have been over 30 to one was even 80% of a conversion rate, right?
Wow.
The thing that people we don't I don't care. Well, I do care how it looks, but the thing that matters the most to me is the conversions because that's going to keep my business going. A pretty website doesn't sometimes doesn't sell all the time, and even sometimes a bad looking website doesn't always sell good. But what is the differentiator in between those? If you can show people this is how you get a result, and then all right, this is how you get this result. So now you have to purchase this. So then I can do the service, or I could do the result. So then that way you're not in that sphere of like just marketing services. Because only time only time it works like that is like say you're an emergency plumber, right?
Hmm.
And that's your offer because people who need a plumber in an emergency, they're going to look for an emergency plumber. But if you're marketing and you want to expand your reach, you need to be able to have a really great result. So that's step number one: build a grand offer. The second one from there is to attract sales opportunities. So which is the A portion in the bag, which in that one is where I teach people how to create the ads is actually with the new offer that they've created to be able to bring in more people automatically and to be able to actually get a 10x, 2x, 5x, 10x return on the ad spend, right?
Hmm.
And doing that through paid ads and a client attraction machine is what we
Yeah.
put together for people. And even when you think about that, how I put together the offer for the client attraction machine, it's not is the pieces of it aren't is not what I'm marketing. I'm marketing the result. The result is you'll be able to attract more clients. But there's pieces to it, just like a desk that has to be put together and assembled for this to work, right? So
Yeah.
that's the same thing. Market the result. People want results more than they want just the stuff because you got to think about it, people buy nails all the time. They don't want just a nail. They want a picture of their loved ones hanging on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's real cool.
Oh, and then the last part, I almost forgot. G. So the G after that, after we do all that, everything should be pretty much humming and flowing well inside of the space. The G is generate your system. So now the model that we help create as well should be simplified in a duplicatable, repeatable process. Every single business, and a lot of this, it's so funny. I watched the movie The Founder a while ago, and it just amazed me. I'm not a big McDonald's fan,
Hmm.
but the people who created McDonald's, the original, they were
The McDonald
geniuses.
brothers.
The McDonald brothers, they were geniuses in how they put together their system to be able to get somebody from front desk to order fulfilled in 30 seconds was phenomenal. Like how they thought about creating their processes, how they thought about hiring, how they thought about where people sat, where people stood, where how long this should take, how long that simplifying and doing a repeatable process is going to help your business grow on the fulfillment side, and
Hmm.
then having a really great offer and great advertising is going to have you uh, is going to have it to be where your business is automated on the client acquisition side,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
basically the two portions of the business: client acquisition and client fulfillment. Once you
Right.
get a client or a customer, you got to fulfill it. So
Yeah.
if you can then automate both of those spheres, now you have a business that runs on its own, and you could take 3 to 4 weeks of a vacation.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I guess I should say that Ray Kroc, when he came into the McDonald's, like they had their system down as far as one restaurant, but then he came in and said, "Hey, let's duplicate this thing. This is where you can really grow. Let's scale it." And so that's how they really became popular because he came in and helped them to scale their process to multiple locations, and that's how the
Yeah.
business grew. Because, like you said, one place is good, but
Hmm.
if you can scale it to have it in multiple places, that's even more generate even more income. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And even
yeah,
when you think about what happened to how Ray Kroc was able to do that, when you look at the thing, it was the model because before they tried to do franchising, it didn't work. It's when you change the model in a business. It's three different things that you have to really get right with your business. You have to have the right message, you have to have the right market, and you need to have the right model.
hmm,
And what Ray Kroc did to actually build it up to scale it up, instead of trying to do franchises with different things, they got the right model right, which was they realized I'm not just in the franchising business, I'm in the real estate business.
yeah, yeah,
They make more money off of their real estate than
yeah.
some of their
From a
burgers.
hamburger.
So and then here's another quick story too. So so when I was 9 years old, this is a part of my story as well. Is that when I was 9 years old, you know, I would just sometimes I would just go in when I'd be in church and different stuff like be those red Bibles sitting in front of you, and I just pick it up, and just start reading. A lot of times I would just really like to read Proverbs and different stuff just because it just makes so much sense to me. Like so it just makes so much sense to me
Yeah.
even at a young age. But I remember one Sunday I was in children's church. They were we were watching this video on Solomon, and Solomon, you know, God asked him, "Hey, what do you want? I'll give you anything." God said, "I want wisdom. I want wisdom to be able to please, like, serve your people and please you as I'm serving your people, right? And I want so I could be able to actually do what you called me here to do." And so I was like, "Man, that was cool." And then and then was like, you know, not God was like, "Not only am I going to give you that, I'm going to give you money too. I'm
Yeah.
going to give you wealth, power, and influence too." And I was like, "Man, that's cool." So I went home that night. I prayed that prayer, and I was like, "I'm gonna pray that one." And so it was so funny because I think like some weeks or months later, this is how beautiful and how awesome God is. Some months later, I'm getting my hair cut. Me and my dad took me to the barber shop.
Hmm.
I just got my hair cut, so I'm waiting in the chair. My dad's in the chair now, so I'm just sitting there waiting. And oh, also one of my favorite movies growing up was Barbershop, just because I wanted to own a barbershop at one point.
Okay.
I wanted to do a lot of different businesses, so that's a different story for a different day. But this guy walks in, and it reminded me of barbershop because it was kind of like, you know, when D. Ray Davis comes in and try to start selling stuff. But
Yeah.
anyways, the guy comes in, and it's near Father's Day. This how I remember it, because the guy came in and he was like, "Hey y'all, I got Father's Day gifts. Any of y'all want to get some stuff?" And as it's going around the room, you could just see people's like, "Nah, man, I'm good. I'm good." And as he was walking to the door, something just was inside. I was like, I gotta say this. So I stopped him and said, "Hey." He was like, "Hey." I was like, have you stopped by any salons today?" He was like, "Nah, I haven't." I was like, "Yeah, maybe you should. I never seen a man buy his own Father's Day gift." I'm 9 years old at the time. So everybody in the barbershop, all these grown men are just sitting there looking like, just holding us like, wow. And my
Wow.
dad's laughing because like I used to talk like this all the time. So, and the guy was like, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna go do that." So I'm not sure what he did. He probably I don't know where he's at now in life, but
He may be
the big
watching this.
I hope so. The biggest message too is that we have to start going to the wrong market with the wrong message. Him just
That's
switching to
good.
maybe salons that day could have easily have impacted his bottom line, and hearing less no's, because you'll probably find more women that's going to buy a Father's Day gift than you find men that's going to buy their own Father's Day gift. You know what I mean?
Wow. I've never
And
thought of it that way. That's yeah, that makes
then
sense.
here's the other thing. This is your first time walking into this establishment, because I know that because I used to go to that barbershop quite a bit. I've never seen that guy before. It's obviously your first time walking to an establishment because everybody's looking around like they don't know you, they don't trust you, and they're not sure if they like you yet. A lot of times, but a lot of times this is how people buy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So when you're making your offer, when you're trying to attract the sales opportunities, it's important for you to create a system to where people can build themselves up, and specifically now in today's age in video, where they can build themselves up in um, in knowing, liking, and trusting you. If you can figure out how to do that inside of your advertising system, you'll be able to have people falling over their seats, pulling their money, their wallets out, trying to pay you. So that's like a really big thing. And the other huge about is that when we think about when we think about the model. So now for me, so my first foray into like a official legitimate like I had to get that business dissolved, but that business was, I had a legitimate business this time, was the clothing line. The thing that I could not do, and basically you have to have the right model for anything that scales. A lot of times people get into business, and especially in the African American community, we go into service businesses, not
Hmm.
realizing that we're competing a lot of times on price, and also inside of that is that we're also having to spend a lot of time fulfilling the service. A
Yeah.
lot of things. So back to the model, when I talk about the speedy system from the McDonald's brothers, a lot of people were making fast food restaurants, but nobody was pumping out as many customers as they were in a day because of their system, their model, and how they put that together. So that's why it's really important for us not to just think of ourselves as service providers, but think about how are we connecting the dots with people, processes, and price to be able to actually have a model that sustains itself, that is
Yeah. Yeah.
profitable. You know,
That's so true, man. I was thinking about like fast forward, like even now, like with Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has, I mean they they're ex- they don't sell necessarily food products, which they do, but they sell an experience, right? They sell
right?
that when you go there, you know you're gonna get good service. You know that the food's gonna be quality food. I mean, you're gonna leave there feeling good, and
Hmm.
that's what they sell. And they have their processes and systems in place. So
Yeah,
when you go in there, man, the customer service is always top notch, and
yeah.
that's what they sell. That's I go to Chick-fil-A mainly because of that, because their chicken sandwiches are good, but
The
they're not
experience, my
great.
pleasure, my pleasure. And
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.
what's crazy about that? You can see this. So I was reading this book, The E Myth. This is a really good book for any entrepreneur out there. Get
What's the
this
name of it?
book, The E Myth.
E-Myth. Okay.
It's by Michael Gerber. It's a really great book, and it breaks down like when you go into business. Back to like the thing, like Chick-fil-A isn't selling chicken; they're selling an experience
Yeah.
that you only could get from Monday through Saturday.
Mhm.
And if it's on Sunday and your mouth watering for it, you're gonna have to wait till Monday. And another part of that, another good book too, based off of that, The E Myth and Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley.
Mhm.
Two great books as far as building a business. Um, to be able to actually position yourself to where you're not just making a business just to create a job for yourself, but you're making a business that is systemized and that has people lining up to do business with you.
Yeah,
And
that's good, man.
that's what you want when you have a business. So
Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. All right, so let me ask you. So you mentioned a lot about your faith walk throughout the years, starting in college. I guess, but before college, I mean, because you grew up in church, but then college you got involved in Bible study and it kind of grew from there. So how does your faith play a role in your business now? How does that all play a role? Your in God play a role in your
for
business?
sure, for sure. One just being ethical. One just being ethical in my marketing, being ethical
And that's a
in
big thing.
yeah, yeah. Because when you talk about marketing and advertising, it can get very very convoluted. But it's interesting. A lot of people don't even realize it, like especially in a lot of different corporations, like they most of them abide by the rules, like the laws that set out as far as advertising. But the lot it's funny because a lot of the small players do a lot of the dirty business.
Yeah, yeah,
And you can feel that way sometimes because you may feel like, oh, I'm not getting enough business. I need to do something, do this or that. But there's a way to be ethical about how we market, how we advertise, how we also have put together an offer to be able to help people. And then as well as being a great leader inside of the business. One I remember recently I had a virtual assistant, and like he was just so excited to be inside of the vision because of just like how awesome it was for the work and like just being able in the environment.
Yeah.
Like some people forget about that side too. Like, yeah, I want to incorporate God as far as like the marketing and advertising. I want to incorporate God as far as serving the client, but I also want to incorporate God as far as like how it feels to work with us inside this vision,
Mhm.
as well. And then when you even think about, and I teach people on this portion, I give you a little piece of it, what I call the value pyramid. A piece of that value pyramid is also the value pyramid of entrepreneurship. To whereas you'll see a little bit of this depiction in the E-Myth, but I kind of modified it for my taste too. At the top, you have a visionary, and then you have a vizier, and then you have a volunteer. So what
Mhm.
does that mean? When we think about the story of Joseph, Joseph, how did he get up to being second in command? And actually, when Joseph got the second in command, it's called a vizier,
Mhm.
and mainly that position is to manage day to day operations. Right? Pharaoh had the vision. The vizier was able to take the vision and to turn it into day to day operations, how to make it run. And then the volunteer is inside of today's businesses, is how people, and you could be paid or free, but volunteer, actually the definition is people who submit to doing a daily task for the thing, for the vision,
Mhm.
specifically. That's, I guess that's my definition. uh but when you, like, you have people who are submitting to the vision. So what has to happen in my side of my business to exude my faith is I have to, at the visionary level, I have to be able to get the vision from God for this business. And then
Yeah.
from there, I don't just pass it off to the vizier or my operations. I also understand what is, I have to understand inside of myself what it is to be a vizier, to know how we should probably do manage and our operations and systems and all that different stuff. So that when I do give it to them, back to Habakkuk 2:2, write down the vision and make it
Make it
plain so
clear.
that he that
Mhm.
may readeth it may run. So
Right.
what does
Mhm.
that mean? When I get the vision, I need to be able to plainly be able to explain this to somebody so when they get the next steps, they can run with it. Not have to slow down and keep asking me different sets of
Mhm.
questions, but they can actually know exactly what it is that they need to do. They just need to go and run with the system.
Yeah.
And then also from a volunteer aspect, I need to be able to know, as the visionary, I need to be able to know how my decisions and how the vision can affect the volunteer and them actually performing their task and performing their work. And so when you're an entrepreneur, especially an entrepreneur that's after God's own heart, you take on all of these different things at one. You have to have all of those different. You can't just be just a visionary and say, oh, other this stuff. Like, I get it. Like, there's some stuff I'm not gifted in, and I'm not going to try to be doing all that different stuff. But I will have a level of understanding so I could be able to serve each and every person inside of the business, so that they can serve people outside of the business, and we can have a message that reaches to the right market with the right model in a way that is aligned with the vision.
That's good, man. Yeah, that's good. That's the challenge I think a lot of times that most people face is that they'll have a vision or an idea, but first of all, they don't write it down, right? They just kind of run with, try to run with it without it being written down. But if you don't write it down, then you can't really expand from there and duplicate it so that others can, take that
Hmm.
vision, catch it, and then it's got to be clear, right? And the best way to write it down, best way for it to be clear is to have it written. And that, and
Yep.
that, and that goes back to processes, right? Those processes are your
SOPs and processes.
your mission statements or your procedures and steps in order to meet that goal, that final goal that you're trying to achieve, whether it's
Yep.
selling hot dogs or providing services or whatever that may be. But if you don't have that in place, then that if you're selling hot dogs, one day that hot dog might be cold, next day my hot dog may not be
Hmm.
cooked, or it might not have the right ketchup on it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you gotta have systems in place so it can be consistent, so that the
Consistent.
end result, your customer or your client will have can know that whatever they receive will be the same each time they purchase it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So as we get ready to close out, I wanted to ask you about purpose. I know we all kind of operate in in this world where if we're not careful, we just kind of just walk, live each day as like just each day, day in and day out, just doing the same thing and over again. Um, as far as those who are watching, do you have any suggestions about how they can fulfill their God given purpose and calling
Yeah,
based on your experiences?
yeah. Find God, or let Him find you.
Yeah.
One way or the other. Because when we think about it, so two key scriptures. I talked about Genesis 1:28. We have to realize that God. It says, and God blessed them. He
Mhm.
said, "Be fruitful and multiply." God has already put a seed inside of you. You just need to go seek the person who gave you the seed so you can figure out what the seed is. Because if the seed hasn't grown, if it's just sitting inside of you, say just like a seed is sitting inside of the ground, you cannot actually know what kind of plant it's going to be if you don't know the seed. So you need to find the seed giver, and you need to be able to get deep into his word, um and to really figure it out. Each every one of us has a specific task and specific design and specific gifts and specific blessing that is going to impact so many people and serve people. Um, and really, we're only going to find that from the person who gives purpose.
Yeah. That's good, man. I mean, it's like the best person who knows about a car is the person that designed the car, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's common
Oh,
sense, but a lot of times we don't think of it that way. We're kind of like going around, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? But hey, God created you, so He knows who you are and why He put you on this planet.
for
And
sure.
so if you have to go to Him to really find out. Now, some people um, can operate partially in their calling in terms of the skills and the gifts that He's giving you, but if outside of God, you're never going to be able to fulfill your purpose, truly your true purpose, because you're kind of operating with the gifts, but you're applying them outside of what God has really called you to do.
Exactly.
So and ultimately you're not going to be totally satisfied. That's why you have these many people that are real famous. They have a lot of money, but they're committing suicide or getting into drugs and these bad habits because they have the gifts and the abilities, but they don't have the connection with God in terms of really being purposeful and fulfilling that purpose that God has called them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Another thing I would say too is like once you find your purpose, it is so fulfilling. You know
True
what I
that.
mean? Like when I found out like when I found out like God found like especially even more like as I'm diving because I keep finding more and more about my purpose. Not like you just find it. I
Yeah,
don't feel like you just find it all at once.
yeah, it's a process.
It's a
It's
process.
ongoing.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And so like even recently when like it like God illuminated to me like you don't have to separate business from me. Like you can have both of that inside of one. And when like I found that and like my wife helped me redirect myself to that, like I feel so much more fulfilled now by teaching people business from the Bible because I always felt like that's where I got all these business ideas from. I got it from like looking at the Bible. It's like it's littered in there.
yeah,
It even tells you that Ecclesiastes 11:1, like send your grain across the water and in a few days a profit will return. So you think about it, you can't get grain without having a seed. You can't have grain without creating and cultivating your product, and you're not going to get a profit unless you create a stream and put it out there in the marketplace. And basically, that's send it overseas, create a stream of income. After that, diversify your investments, divide it even between seven or even eight, because you never know what calamity will fall upon the land. When
yeah,
you think about it from that sphere, it's all in the Bible. And I was just like, this just blow, it blows people's mind because it's like a lot of times, especially in the Christian faith, sometimes we feel like being poor is like the way to go,
yeah.
and it's just
Unfortunately,
like that's more spiritual than being having money. But it's like no, I can have wealth, I can have money and be a good person. Like when Jesus was talking about the rich man wasn't getting to heaven, the rich man wasn't getting to heaven because the person wouldn't give up his stuff. He wanted his stuff more than he wanted to go through the gate.
yeah. And he perceived himself as a good person, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So like I know like I'm not a great person. I sin, I fall short. And like this stuff, I'm not gonna take it with me. So that's why it takes me back to Proverbs where it says, a good man, a man who pleases God, leaves an inheritance for his children's children.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, on our own we suck, but with God we're great and we're
Exactly.
extraordinary people. But we just have to realize that, right, and operate in that.
Mhm.
So, how can people find out more about what you do? I mean, how can they find you?
For sure. The best find, you could go to the website is www.ahmaadmgreen.com. You'll be
You
able to
said it one more
find
time. You broke up a little bit. Say it one more time.
oh, no
I'm
worries.
sorry.
It's www.ahmaadmgreen.com. It's AHMAAD green.com, because I know a lot of people spell it so many different ways. But that's how you spell my name. I've been going through that my whole life. That's how you spell it. You can find the different offerings. You can find the different. We're going to be starting back up our challenge where we could take you through how to get a bag and how to multiply that bag, based off of my dad's actual first sermon, which is like my life verse. I think it's on this I think it's on this Matthew 25:14 through 30, and Genesis 1:28, and Ecclesiastes 11. All these different biblical principles that we tie in to be able to show you how to get a bag and how to multiply it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Hey, I appreciate you, Ahmad, for being on God Dreamers today, man. It's been great to hear your words of wisdom about growing your business and having the right mindset and right intent to grow your business, man. So I'm excited about what you shared, and like I said, those who are watching, check out Ahmad and what he's doing. If you need some help growing your business and you need some some guidance and direction, or reach out to him. I know that he'll be a blessing to you and your business. So anyway, you guys know of anyone that's doing great things in the kingdom, making a difference, or you yourself would like to share your story, please reach out to us. We love to share your story and let the world know what you're doing and how God is fulfilling your purposes, so that they may be inspired to do the same thing. So until next time, you guys, God bless. Y'all take care.
Take it easy.